All right, so we're going to begin our class in chapter 12 as we begin to expand our study on personal pronouns. We've already looked at first and second, and I want to do a review of the first and second pronouns and then move into third person pronouns. One of the fascinating things about third person pronouns is Bill Mounts brings it out on page 94. That's third declension. That's the wrong page. Sorry about that. And page, there we go. All right, page 120. Yeah, we'll move from 194 to 120. So we remember that a pronoun stands in place of the noun, right? So you wouldn't want to keep saying, that, Peter, Paul, and Mary went to the store so that Peter and Paul and Mary could get some food, and then Peter and Paul and Mary went home. So at some point, you're going to say Peter and Paul and Mary went to the store, and then they went they wanted to buy some food so that they could go home and eat it. So it smooths the reading over, and so it's less redundant, but it adds to it. So the personal pronoun will stand in place. We're used to that. We see it all the time in English as well as in Greek. Stand in place of the noun it's modifying, or the noun it's pointing back to. The noun it's pointing back to is called the antecedent. It's pointing back, antecedent, the word that it refers to, right? So one of the things he brings out in here is that, well, it also does other things, okay? So it really does three things. Personal pronoun will do three things. Well, number one, it can stand in place of a noun that it's antecedent. Jesus, he went and he said, and, he said to him, kind of thing. So it would stand in place of the noun it's antecedent that's taking the place of. But it also can function as an intensifier. And in 1 Peter 5, verse 10, Peter writes, "And the God of all grace, who called you to his eternal glory in Christ, after you suffered a little while, will himself restore you and make you strong, firm, and steadfast." I think what's fascinating about is that this is a chapter where Peter is talking about in verse 8 about the devil, Satan is a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. And the point here is that Peter brings out this emphasis is that God himself will restore you and make you strong and steadfast against against the devil who's seeking about to devour you. So he himself will do such. In other words, he cares. It matters. And Peter brings this out very strongly by using a pronoun as an intensifier. Actually, it's third person pronoun, of course, as an intensifier. And so we're going to kind of look at how these third pronouns functions. They'll function as take the place of the noun that it's referring back to. It's antecedent. They'll function as an intensifier, and they'll also function what's called as adjectival, not an adjectival intensive, but identical adjective. And so we'll get to that in a moment. All right, but let's do a quick review. So when we talk about pronouns, personal pronouns, which is what we're looking at today, we've already looked at first and second personal pronouns, but today we're going to look at third person personal pronouns. All right. So in first and second personal pronouns, ego. Is ego a first or second personal pronoun, Samuel?
Ego is a first person.
Okay. What about Sue, Jake? First or second personal pronoun?
I'm second.
Yeah. All right. You only had a 50-50 chance, and he's already said.
Yeah.
So pretty straightforward. And these, of course, are going to be our third person personal pronouns, which we're going to look at today. So we already looked at these, and that's where we spend our time on third. There's also demonstrative pronouns, which we'll get to the next time we come back. We're going to take a week break here, Samuel, after this week. Just a break from this class as we you'll have the other class. Both will have the other class for New Testament World, custom times and custom lives and times. But demonstrative pronouns basically will be this or that, these or those. And then, make sure I'm not doing this wrong here. Hold on. Yeah, exactly. So this man, this person, that. And then relative pronouns: who, whoever, what, whatever, when, whenever. So relative pronouns will come after that. Interrogative pronoun is the tis with the accent. Indefinite pronoun, interrogative was why, kind of thing, or tis. Indefinite pronoun, anyone, someone, certain one, something, someone. Without the accent, you see accents can make a difference in some words. This will function as an indefinite. It occurs 543 times. The interrogative, why, 615 times. Reflective, himself. Intensifying, which we're going to look at today as well. Altos, alte, alton. Notice that they are the same ones. So functioning intensified. And reciprocal, alelon, one another. Kind of thing functions 100 times. So these are all pronouns, and you can see they come a lot throughout the New Testament. So it's good to have a pretty good handle on it. So, okay, so let's start out English because we know English pronouns replaces a noun, right? Give it to me. Well, it is a personal pronoun, is referring back to something. I don't know what it is in this context. I don't know. Give it to me refers to as the direct object, me. Obviously, the direct object me is going to be a person, Dave, somebody. I'm speaking, so it's me, Dave. Personal pronoun, of course, is I wish I'd taken Hebrew instead of Greek. Well, I is a personal pronoun in the subject. I wish I had taken Hebrew instead of Greek. Again, I wish I had. I know you guys would like to do Hebrew instead of Greek. We'll get to that next year.
Mhm.
It does point back to its antecedent. We've already talked about that. And there are first, second, and third person. That is in English. Well, Greek is very much the same thing. You already know this in English. We're just going to now apply it in Greek. Really, for the first and second, it's pretty straightforward. The third is pretty much the same thing, but in the plural form, we'll have in English we'll say they, them, but in Greek we actually break it out to the various masculine, feminine, neuter forms. And the reason is because we needed to agree with the antecedent, the one it's modifying, so we can know. In English, we write in subject, verb, object form, but not so much in Greek. Greek can have the pronoun at some other place, and to know what it's modifying, to know which antecedent it is, it has to agree with it. So,
So if it's like talking about ecclesia, right, church, that's a feminine. So the pronoun would agree with that that
right.
that
But it's not
feminine.
straightforward there in English, especially, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, especially words like ecclesia or cosmos. Cosmos is a neuter noun, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the world, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we would say in English, it, the world, it went to, or it is dying, whatever, it is
Yeah.
decaying, right? But excuse me, cosmos is actually a masculine word. Yeah,
Yeah, it'd be
so it's a
autos,
masculine
but if
word
it was
in
ecclesia,
Greek,
it'd be
but
aute.
translating the English would translate it as an it.
Okay.
With the spirit, well, it's neuter, but we don't say it. We translate it as a he. Well, that's a different lesson. But ecclesia, you're right, is a feminine word. It ends in its case ending ends in an alpha. Ecclesia. It's a first declension, and it is a feminine word. And we would normally say her, but sometimes it's not inappropriate to say it.
Okay.
Uh, so English doesn't always have an agreement. Oftentimes in Greek, we want an agreement in its gender with the antecedent it's modifying, so we know what it's modifying or what it's replacing. But in English, sometimes, so in Greek, we'll follow grammatical gender, but sometimes in English, we're following natural gender. And that's why you might have an it when in Greek it's a masculine. The world is an it in English, but in Greek it's a cosmos is a masculine. And same thing with ecclesia, and the same thing with
Yeah.
pneuma, and all these kind of things. So we'll get to some of that. That's a good point. Thank you. And this is messed up. All right. Let me see. All right. So in English, we have our first person, second person. subjective case, possessive case, and objective case, singular. Subjective, possessive, and objective plural, right? So first is I, and then second, what was first? First is I, my, and me, singular, subjective, possessive, and objective. We, plural, are, possessive, and us in the objective, plural. In the second person, it's a you, a your, a you, a you, a your, and a you. The thing about these is there is no gender. I is either masculine or feminine. Feminine. There's no gender associated with it. And same with you. We don't know. I don't know if you is referring to a male or female, or I is referring to a male or female. My, I don't know unless I know the person is male or female. In other words, unless I know the natural gender. So in English, again, it doesn't follow a grammatical. There's no grammatical gender in English. Same thing in Greek. In English, the pronouns will be the case. In other words, functioning. The case being subjective, objective, or possessive. It's going to be unique for the pronoun. You don't say "me will eat now," right? We say "I will eat now." So Dave loves to eat. That's true. I can't deny that, right? But I'm not going to then add up and say, "Well, me will eat now." I'm going to say "I will eat now" because the I is now functioning as the subject. Me is the objective case. But the number and person of its antecedent will agree. So the function is for the pronoun in English. It depends upon how it's being used. Is it being used as a subject or the object? And that's how it's going to function. But its number and person will agree with what it's replacing. My name is Dave. I like to teach Greek. Well, Dave is in the objective case, but here I is in the subjective case. But yet I is going to agree with Dave, and although there's no, maybe it's a poor example, there's no gender, but it's going to agree in number and person. It's singular, and it's first person. That's what I want. Okay. So it will agree in number and person. Dave is first person. I is first person. Dave is singular. I are singular. But here, Dave is the object, and I is the subject. So its function is determined. Its case is determined by its function, but its number and person by its antecedent, and there is no gender associated with first or second. Okay. I throw you out. Makes sense? Everybody on the same page?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, with first or second, it's like I and you.
Yeah. Well, we already did this in chapter 11. So ego is I, mu, genitive case, my, dative, plural or singular, moi, to me or with me or in me, me, accusative, just me. The plural form, well, let's stay with the here. So first person, there's no gender. No gender in the plural form, hey mess, hey mace, hey mon, hey min, hey moss. The nice thing is, for the most part, is you can still follow your what you learned in pronouns. Always pretty much the same thing once you get to the plural form. First person, second person, no gender again. Is Sue is you. Sue is your. To make that emphatic, you put the accent on it. Soy, to you, with you, in you. To make it emphatic, you put the accent on it. Seth, make it emphatic, to you, you put the accent on it. And then humes, humon, humin, humas. You, your, to you, you. We've already done this. Uh, uh, the neat thing about this to remember this second person is pretty much you for us. And when you get to the plural side, that's what it starts with is a you. So it helps me remember. So when I see hey Mace, I know it's not second person, it has to be first person. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so in English we got our he, she, it for subjective singular, possessive singular, his, her, its, objective singular, him, her, it, right? But in plural, whether you're subjective, possessive, or plural, we're not worried about the gender. It's they, them, or their for English, right? Or for third person, right? They, their, or them. But in Greek, we do worry about it. It does make a difference. We'll still translate it as they, their, or them in the plural, but in the Greek, it will be autos, aute, auton, and for they. And so we've already done this side, and now we're adding this side here, over here. So following and this is how it follows a second declension pattern, just like we've learned. Autos, aute, auta. This is the same thing you've already learned, except here that noon isn't there. And it's not there, and you've already seen that in the article. In the article, there's no noon for the nominative singular article for the neuter form. And it's the same thing here. And there's a reason. I'm not going to go into it now because I forgot half of it and I don't want to explain it wrong. But autos, aute, auta is he, she, or it, right? He, she, or it. And in the genitive form, it'd be, look, we've already seen all this. There's nothing new here. His, her, its. Auto, look, we've already seen that before. Aute with the subscript iota. Auto with the subscript iota. To him, with him, in him, her, or it. So most of these patterns you already know. In the accusative, auton, autain, auta, we lost the new, and we fell off. And there is a reason for it. I don't remember exactly. I kind of have half of it in my mind, but I don't want to explain it wrong. In the plural form, autoi, well, that's exactly what we learned for the nominative plural masculine, third declension masculine form. Autai, auta, it's the same as we had before, and we translated they. So we notice we have a masculine, a feminine, and a neuter for third declension plural, but yet we'll translate it only as they. Up here, it's he, she, it, his, her, its, to him, with him, to her, to it, him, her, it. But down here, it's just they. Or their. Auton, 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 their. Autois, autais, autois, to them, with them, in them. Autus, we've already seen all this. Autos, auta, just as we saw before, and it's to them. It's just them. And so this is all the form you're learning right here. And my point is you already know almost all of it. You're just adding the case ending to that out top, such as smooth breathing, and it'll have the article. That makes sense? See what's happening there? Sam, you okay?
Yeah.
So recognizing is not going to be overly difficult for you. I do want to make sure you know, though, to know that this is autos with the smooth breathing, aute with a smooth breathing. That's important. Auta with a smooth breathing. All these are smooth breathing. Okay. And the reason is because later on we're going to see another word, hutos, with a rough breathing. Excuse me, rough breathing. It's very similar, but in the feminine, it's going to be aute with a rough breathing. Haute, and it looks very much the same. But this is a smooth, that's a rough. And this is going to be this or that. When we get to demonstrative pronouns later on, which will be actually the next time we meet. Okay, so recognizing that we're just really taking this auto and putting our case endings that we already know for the most part, and with the smooth breathing, that's the important part I want to highlight. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Mike, you want to learn Greek? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to check on you. I wanted to check on your class. It all worked out great.
Yeah. I was at. Just so you guys know, Eddie and Mike are catching up on a different class, synoptic gospel, and so they're trying to have their lesson at the same time we're having ours, and we were like, I'm not sure it's going to work. Let's try it and find out. And so we found out it does work. I think it depends upon Mike. It depends upon how many different admins we have. And as long as we don't exceed that number of admins, I believe that's the case. So in other words, you're an admin, I'm an admin, Andre's an admin, and so if I think having two at the same time is not a problem, as long as we're not having more than three admins or three different. Anyway, that's something I'm still trying to figure out. Okay.
All right. I'm out.
Good. All right. Later.
Bye.
Okay. So three ways. Now you see what it looks like, its form, okay? Now let's talk about how it functions. The third person personal pronoun can function three different ways. Number one, it can function as a personal pronoun. Oh, wow, that's nothing new. He, she, it, or they, or them, or whatever the case may be. We just went over that. So it will take the place of its antecedent, and it will function its case will be however it's functioning in the sentence, but its number and gender will agree with the antecedent it's replacing. Make sense? Okay. So he will see God. She will see God. They will see God. Well, the answer, whether it's he, she, or it depends upon how what it's pointing back to, right? It's no, it depends upon the case. Depends upon whether it's functioning as the subjective, the objective, the possessive, the indirect object, or the accusative objective. So that determines that. Anyway, we already did that. Okay, adjectival intensive means God Himself will strengthen you. And so Peter in 1 Peter 5, what verse was that, 10? Emphasize that God is involved and He personally takes an interest when Satan is trying to devour us. God takes an interest and is there to strengthen and guide us so that Satan flees from us. We don't have to flee from Satan. Satan flees from us when we're with God, and that's important. Basically, I'm sorry.
Would that be the same as saying like I myself went to the store? Just
Exactly.
Okay.
And yeah, you emphasize it's emphatic. I myself, not somebody else. I went to the store. Some translations will leave the emphatic emphasis out. I don't really agree with that. I think the author intended it. So I myself went to the store. Well, why did the author want to intensify that? He's obviously trying to depict that it was he, the author, that went versus someone else that went. And so there's an emphasis. It's God Himself that will protect and strengthen us from Satan. That we don't need to flee from Satan because Satan will flee from us when God Himself strengthens us. When we're with God.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sam.
And I'm sure you're going to cover that. Or go ahead, Sam.
No, you got it, Jake. Go ahead.
I know you're going to cover this, so this is probably preemptive. When you have that, I myself or God Himself, are there two Greek pronouns or one?
I'm going to show you.
Indicates. Okay.
Yeah, we're going there. You're right. We're going there. Okay, so right now I'm just introducing the three different types, right? The third person personal pronoun, just functioning to replace its antecedent. It's going to agree in gender and number with the antecedent because you need to know which one is it pointing back to. Well, it's going to agree. If the antecedent is feminine, then the pronoun is going to be feminine. If the antecedent was plural, then the pronoun is going to be feminine. But its case is going to function depending upon how it functions in the sentence: subjective, objective, possessive, accusative, indirect, dative. Okay. Sam, you're going to ask a question. What was it?
So that emphatic would go back to like the a moo instead of just moo.
Yeah, very much the same thing in first and second person. You can have in the singular, you can have moo, my, but moo with the accent would, and I don't really see it so much as it's like mine. Some might go that way, but it's probably not intended to be that intensified, but to say it's mine and not yours.
Yeah.
So that's the intensifier. It's in contrast to something else. And this is much similar, that it's God Himself. That might be much more of an intensifier. It's God Himself that will strengthen you, and Satan tries to devour you if you're with God. I think this is more of an intensifier than it is a contrast per se. That makes sense? It is a contrast, but it's more intensification. Where in the first and second, when you add the accents to the genitive, the dative, and the accusative to mu, mo, and me, or su, and soy and se, when you add those accents to it, it's probably more in contrast. It is an intensifier, but more in contrast. It's really me, not you. But here, I think it's really an intensification. It's God Himself. It's I myself kind of thing. So I think that's the intent. But here, what I'm trying to point out is here it's going to agree in its number and gender, and its function will be the case will be based on how it's functioning. But here, it's going to agree in case, number, and gender. And it's usually be associated with the subject of the sentence. Normally, it's going to be what we call the predicate position. In other words, it's going to have the article associated with the third person personal pronoun. So that's the predicate. Well, it'll have the article. It's I don't know, say Dallas. I'm not sure. So if the article would be with the adjective or with the personal pronoun, not necessarily with the noun that it's putting back to. Well, that's not really right. Anyway, it's with the personal pronoun. So God Himself, the apostle himself, the church herself. Some would say itself. I would not, but some would say itself. I think that's inappropriate. They do that right because, well, no, I'm thinking something different. And then it can function as an identical adjective. So, for example, here's alte, and notice it agrees. It's under this prepositional phrase, right? I always mark off my prepositional phrase. In means in. In alte, there's tain hora, the hour. Okay, in her the hour. That doesn't make any sense. So it's pretty obvious it agrees with the adjective or the noun it's modifying, so basically, and it normally precedes it, and basically in the same hour. So it's the identical. It's the same hour. We're going to go through more of these. Okay? That's a general introduction to the three different ways it functions. Okay, make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, for example, a personal pronoun, not hard. All right. So you haven't done obsantai. Here's a future will see. That's green. That's green. You already know ton, theon. How's that functioning, Samuel? Ton, theon.
As the subject.
It's a
It's
subject? Okay.
nominative.
Okay. What do you say,
No.
Jake? Is it the subject? Ton, theon.
No.
No, it's not. Is it? What is it? It's not the subject.
Ton theon isn't genitive, I don't think.
No, it's not genitive. You're correct.
It's in the
Is
accusative
it
Accusative. So how's it function?
as the
direct?
direct object.
Direct object. So God. So here's our verb. All right. So now we get to autoi. Here's our personal pronoun, third person personal pronoun. Is this a masculine or feminine or neuter? And is it singular or plural?
I can't remember. I'm gonna assume plural.
Yeah. Well, we already gave you the answer here, right there.
Yeah, I mean it has will see, so yeah.
But here's our ending, right? The iota for the plural masculine nominative. So it's a masculine word. It's being used in masculine form, and which is normal when you go in Greek when you're talking about a plurality of people. It takes the masculine form. So it's they will see God, and that's how. So they is referring back to some other group that we don't have context here. But they is going to refer back to something that's masculine and something that's plural, right? So if I want to know what
go with
I'm going to look for a masculine plural person or group,
Okay.
right? They will see God. Make sense? Third person personal pronoun. It's going to agree in its gender and number with whatever it's referring back to, right? It's referring back to this antecedent. But it will not agree necessarily with its case, right? In this case, the case is going to be subject because it's going to be nominative, right? Because it's functioning as the subject. They will see God. But maybe what it's referring back to is actually an accusative. It doesn't matter as long as it agrees in person and number. Okay? Gender and person. Gender and, not person. Gender and number. Excuse me. I'm getting person stuff. All right. We okay? Throw you off?
I think we're good.
It's a little confusing, but I
Okay,
think
cool.
I'm getting it.
Let me do this. They is functioning here as its case as the subject. So it's in the nominative case. Nominative case, right?
Mhm.
Right.
But the word it's referring back to may not be in the nominative case. It could be in any of the cases, most likely accusative or nominative, but any other case. But it will agree in its, it will be masculine and it will be plural because this is masculine plural.
So I need to go back and look in the
You got to
sentence
find
for
a masculine
masculine
plural
plural.
word that they refers back to. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
But may not be, it could be, okay? It may not be in the same nominative case. Doesn't have to be. All it has to do is agree when all it's doing is taking the place, Sam loves his family. Uh, his family loves him. Well, Sam loves his family. Sam's in the nominative case. It's a subject. But his family loves him. Him refers back to Sam. And it's going to agree in singular. And it's going to agree that its gender's masculine. But it may not agree and does not agree here.
Yeah,
Him
because
is accusative.
in that second part, family would be the subject. His family
Yes.
loves him.
So if we
But
say,
the him goes back to the same. Oh, okay.
if we go back to from current here, we say Sam loves his family. Let's start with that. Okay, his is referring back to Sam, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's possessive. That's nominative, subjective. Two different case endings, but yet they're both masculine and singular. Now you do the next sentence, and we say his family loves him. Oh, well, here's the subject, his. Who's it referring back to? Well, it's not referring back to family. That can't be because family is plural and his is actually singular. It refers back to Sam. It's going to refer back to whatever his is masculine and singular, but it's functioning as a possessive. Him is functioning as the accusative or the object, but again, it's singular and it's masculine. All of these agree with Sam being singular and masculine, but they do not agree in case. None of them agree in case, as a matter of fact, because it's taking the place of Sam. And Sam can be possessive, he can be objective, he could be whatever. Sam's a funny guy. I don't know. Be whatever. So that's what's happening. And in English, it can be kind of hard sometimes, depending, because normally what it does is it normally points back to the closest noun that's replacing, but in Greek, not necessarily so. In Greek is more specific, right? It's more specific. I know that they has to refer to a masculine singular person, masculine plural person, because autoi is masculine plural.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
autoi is a subject. However, it may refer to something back as masculine singular that's the object, or the subject, or the genitive, or something else. Okay? That's all that's doing. Okay? Just remember, for a third person personal pronoun, it's going to agree with antecedent in gender and number, right? Masculine, feminine, plural, singular, but it may not agree in its case ending.
Yeah. Okay.
Case
I
endings
get
determine
that.
how it's functioning in the sentence. All right. Now, adjectival intensive intensifying, right? Ha, what time is it? Let me see the time. Okay, we got time. Yeah.
8:55.
Ha, with your article, ha, Jesus, autos. Normally, the intensifier, autos, will, well, it agrees. Normally, it's going to be referring to the subject, is one point. Ha, esos is, esus, excuse me, is going to be the subject, and it's in the nominative case. It's masculine, and it's singular. That's nominative masculine singular. That's nominative masculine singular. And that's nominative masculine singular. They all agree. All right. And it's normally adjectival intensive is associated with the subject, normally. So autos would be Jesus himself. Right? It agrees. Now, ha cosmos, there's our nominative masculine singular, cosmos, nominative masculine singular, our second declension connecting or stem ending, our nominative masculine singular case ending, cosmos. Autos, it agrees. Look, autos, it agrees with it. It's all the same. And so the world, not himself, in English, that's where we struggle, because in English, it would be the world itself.
Yeah.
But literally, it's him. Literally, it agrees. See here where it agrees, but it won't agree in English. That's what I wanted to bring out. It won't agree in
Yeah,
English
because it wouldn't be the world, he
because
or himself.
because what's happening is in Greek we're following grammatical gender, but in English, in this case, we're following not in every case, but in this case we're following natural gender. That's why it's itself.
Yeah.
That's the reason. Okay. And you mentioned ecclesia, aute, feminine. Hey, there's my feminine nominative. This is the nominative. Nominative, singular feminine. Nominative singular feminine. Nominative singular feminine. Ecclesia. Nominative singular feminine. Singular
So
feminine.
it's
No case.
adjective.
And so we have the church herself, but it's not improper to say itself, but I think it's not right either. Uh, 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 some would say itself. I think it's wrong. It is, by this case, it is a nominative singular feminine, nominative singular feminine, nominative singular feminine, and so the church herself is appropriate. More correct. Is correct.
So it's going to agree in all three of them.
Well, these all agree.
Intensifiers.
They all agree. And in Greek, they're all going to agree.
Yeah.
They have to agree. Okay.
I'm saying the intensifiers where the previous ones just lined up with gender and number. These are
No.
case.
Okay. You're talking about personal pronouns.
Yeah. Personal pronouns, but
Yes.
in the
Okay.
intensifiers, it's going to agree in case, number, and gender.
Yes. So a
Okay.
third person personal pronoun, when it's functioning as a personal pronoun, it's going to agree in gender and number, but not necessarily in case. But when it's functioning as an adjectival intensive, himself, herself, itself, their self, they, whatever, then it will agree in case, number, and gender. In
Okay.
case, number, and gender, all three. So the world itself, or we say itself only because in English we're doing natural gender, but in Greek it's going to agree in grammatical gender. Same with aute, he, ecclesia. It's going to agree in case, number, and gender for all three. Same with here we have su. Here's our second person, right? It's nominative. Su, autos, nominative. Leges. This is a third person. Excuse me, second person. Verb for you said, say, you speak, you speak. So third person, they all agree in case, number, and gender, and so it's you yourself say or speak. Yeah, that's what the intensifier does. It's just saying yourself. Hisself, himself, whatever. You know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
point is, they all will agree in case, number, and gender. Case, number, and gender. Case, number, and gender. Case, number, and gender. All. Whereas you're right, here it only agrees in gender and number, but not in case. Okay?
So we would see this part like when Paul says, "I myself have written this."
Exactly.
Yeah.
With my own hand, he writes in at the end.
Okay.
What book is that? Galatians? I don't remember. Okay. All right. So we could see how a personal pronoun, how it looks, how it's formed, but its function can function as a personal pronoun, and it can function as a adjectival intensive, or it can function as an here's another example. Adjectival intensive. Here's a good example, actually. So ekratesin means seized. All right, won't get into all that. Ton Ioanane, Tana Ioanane is John, right? The John. All right. We don't generally translate the though, so we just say John. And then we have Herod, Herodes. Herod is what I'm trying to point out. This is the feminine form, but actually, no, excuse me, the first declension. First declension, which is normally a feminine form. But remember, he said some words are not feminine in first declension. This is a masculine form in a first declension pattern. So ha Herodes, that looks feminine, but it's not. It's masculine in a first declension pattern. And ha, that's why that article helps you so much. Autos, masculine, nominative, singular. Masculine, nominative, singular. Masculine, nominative, singular. It doesn't look masculine, nominative, singular, but it is. It's following a first declension pattern in a first declension word. So Herod himself, notice they all agree in case, number, and gender. Herod himself sees John. Make sense? You guys following?
Yeah.
Okay. So the third way is that's the adjectival intensive. The other way is an identical adjective. I thought I had another chart here. Oh, we did that. Okay. Identical adjective. So ton, auton, blogon. They all end in this on. Right? There's my article. That is an accusative, singular article, right? Neuter. Right? That's easy to memorize. Auton, logon. There's my accusative, singular. And so it's ton, auton, logon. It's going to be so it's not going to be the it word, but it's going to be the same. Actually, probably the same thing is probably more appropriate. Logos can be matter, thing, word, subject, speak, all kinds of things. So it's probably the same thing or the same word. Kind of thing. So identical adjectival means it's going to just say it's same. So this gets translated as same. That's all that happens. The same word or thing, the same thing. Here's my prepositional phrase, ente. I got an article. Everything's in the dative, hurrah. And so in the same, here's the hour, the same hour. Okay.
Can you explain that one more time? I don't know if I necessarily caught on. I was thinking it said like the word itself instead of the same word.
Okay. So what you're doing is you're making an intensifier, the word
Okay.
itself, right?
Right. Okay.
In this case, what happens is, and here's how you know the difference. Here's how you know the difference is that
Is it the article before?
the article before that. This is where when we did adjectives, if you've missed adjectives going over it, this is where you get into the predicate position.
Okay.
Spell predicate position, and there we have a ton auton logon, and so hence it's the difference between the intensifier is there. It agrees, but here it also agrees, except it's in the predicate position. And the good news is
In a
there are
different.
very few of these. They're not many, but the word, not itself, but the same word or the same hour. I think this is probably wrong because I think I need to look at that. The same
Yeah.
hour. I know it's the same hour, but I'm not sure that this is right. Here's the same word, and so it's that's why it's identical.
So
The
if it
same,
was ton,
same. I'm sorry.
if it was ton lagon auton, then it would be the word itself.
Then it'd be the intensifier, the word itself.
Yeah.
Or
But
yeah,
since it's ton auton
exactly.
lagon, okay.
That's correct. Yeah. Now, can you remember all that? I don't. I have to go back and look. But then once I see it, and I go, oh yeah, I remember. So when I see a translation, the word itself, Jesus himself, the church herself, then I know there's an intensifier there. But when I see at the same hour, Jesus went and did this, or at
Yeah.
the
Like when
same
Paul baptized the jailer at the same hour or the
right.
same time. Yeah.
Then you can tell it's going to function as the identity. So it's still this same third person pronoun, personal pronoun, but it's not functioning as a personal pronoun. It's not functioning as an intensifier. It's functioning as an identical adjectival. In other words, it's the same hour, the same time, whatever it might be. Okay. So there's two things. You always want to say, okay, what does it look like? How do I recognize its form? And then how's it function? So it can function, in this case, a third person personal pronoun can function three different ways: as the personal pronoun, as the intensifier, or as an identical adjectival. Adjectival identifier. All right. And for example, here, parsu sato and ton logon, the same thing. So here we have and again, and kai, and again. All right. He prayed. There's our subject. He prayed. Pras, Perseu sagato. Perseu sato. I probably got it wrong. He prayed. Ton auton logon. Right. Predicate position. The same thing. That's all it's doing. And that is it. Now I didn't put. I didn't have it here. So I didn't have vocab. What time we got? I don't want you to be late for the next class. We got a couple minutes. Let's just look at vocab real quick in the book. I didn't have it in here. that's not it. It's the wrong book. Well, that's frustrating me. Okay. Oh, no, we'll find it. Good, this way. That'll be easier. That's smarter. Oops. There we go. And let's find the noun system, and we're on chapter 12 and vocabulary. All right. Okay, so first word, who wants to pronounce it for us?
Sam?
Go ahead, Sam.
Ion.
Yeah, I own, and here is I own nos. There's our Greek form. I can't write on this. There is a way, but I haven't figured it out. We see, so we'll look it up in the lexical forms. I own, and in the genitive form is I own nos, and you see the article there, and you see off there with the asterisk 122 times. That means age or eternity. So you see various idioms in the New Testament. Eis ton iona, eis tous ionos, ton ionon. They all mean forever. Sometimes we put eternity, forever. So, what about the next word? A little longer, but it's in two parts. Do you want to try to read that, Jake?
Didaskalos.
Didaskalos, yeah, or los, either way. You see the genitive form didaskalou, ha. There's the article. 59 times it appears, meaning teacher. Right? What about the next one? Sam, we'll just go back.
Eutheus.
Euthus.
Euthus.
Right? So, I'm going to figure out how to write on this later. Meaning immediately. Okay, what about the next one?
Heos.
Heos, right?
Heos. Okay.
Right? Has that rough breathing. So os, with the long omega there, and conjunction meaning until. It's a preposition. It can function as a preposition. So it can function as a conjunction joining two things together, right? Until, right? Or as a preposition in the genitive form, which makes sense. You see the omega sigma ending, genitive. The genitive form would be as far as. So it could be either as a conjunction or as a genitive, depending on context. What about the next word, Sam?
Mathetes.
Mathetes, exactly right. So in the genitive, mathetu, you see the article there, ha. It's it means disciple. And okay, and then with the next word, the particle.
Men.
Yeah, men. So men can mean on the one hand or indeed. It's called a postpositive. So when you read in the Greek, just like the word de, and but or but and, it will not be the first word in the sentence. Normally it's the second word. It sort of interrupts the flow, but that's why it's a postpositive. But it actually gets translated as the first word in the sentence. So, and sometimes men is not even translatable, but our note says it can occur as a correlative conjunction with de. In this case, translate men de on the one hand, but on the other hand, or indeed, something of that nature. Okay. Medes. I see what you read it. Medea, Medemia, Medin. So this is a compound, right? Me and de plus in and mia. Remember in, actually, hen in the rough breathing. Mia mean one, hen mean one. May mean no, and not with de. So it's no one thing, or no one, or no thing, or one thing. What about the next word, Sam?
Monos.
Manos, mane, manon. Now this is an adjective. There's no article associated with it. You get the masculine, manos, the feminine, mane, and the neuter, manon. It has to agree with whatever word it's going to modify, so it needs to have a form for the masculine, feminine, and neuter form. So it can agree with any of those. And it means only or alone. excuse me. Adjectives can also function adverbally, but I'm not getting into that now. What about the next word? Jake?
Hopos.
Hopos or hopos, if you're doing the long O, that's fine. Hopos, how, or in order that. Sam?
Hasos, or is it Haas?
Hasas or Hase. Hasas in the masculine, Hase in the feminine, Hasan in the neuter. That means it's functioning adjectively. It has to be you don't see an article with it. You don't see a genitive form. And it will have a genitive form in the masculine, in the feminine, and the neuter. It will also have a dative and accusative form in the masculine, feminine, and neuter. So it can agree with whatever word it's modifying. It means as great as or as many as. What about the next word?
Un.
Un, yeah, it appears 498 times, and you see it often. It is also a post-positive, like the word de, or the word men. They will not be the very first word in the Greek sentence, but we'll translate it, if we translate it at all, as the first word generally in our English sentence. So it's a post-positive, meaning therefore, or accordingly, or then.
When you say that, I'm trying to think of what that would look like. So in the Greek, un would be first, and then you would have
No,
men, or would it? And in the English, it's opposite, or is it the other way around?
we say un would be first. No.
So
Let
would
me-
it be? So in English, would we say, on the other hand, therefore, or would we say, therefore, on the other hand?
Well, I'm not sure why you got on the other hand and therefore together. If you have it,
Oh, I asked that.
I think
since,
he's asking how you translate it. Would it be like therefore on the other hand, or
I don't know about the other hand. That's the thing. I'm
or
trying
on the
to.
one hand. Sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Well, but even on the one hand, it's going to be un is going to be therefore, accordingly, or then. The word you're talking about, there's a different word. They both function post positively, and that is men on the one hand, or indeed, or on the one hand, or the other hand would be the word men. It's also post positive. Let me show you an example real quick if I can find it.
Okay.
Let me just go to let's see if I find a quick example. All right, see right, verse 16. Let me pull it up here. The second part, ha de.
It's covered by the
Okay,
the
so
logo.
the ha apiste sauce is associated with each other. It's the both the nominative, singular, masculine. De though is post positive. I can't write on this, but it actually would, when we translate it, it will appear as the first word. But the apiste sauce, whatever apiste sauce means, my vocab is not that strong. All those who've refused to believe. So unbelief. But the unbelieving ones, which is what ha de apiste sauce, there's pisteu, to believe. Its form would be the unbelieving ones with the ah. So, but the unbelieving ones, and you see des post positive. It's not the first in the Greek, but it would be first in English. Ha de in English would be but the. That makes sense? Same with the word men, the same with the word de, the same with the word, what was the word we were just doing?
We're doing un.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
So un can come second.
It will not be first in English, in the Greek. It will not be first in the Greek. It's called post positive, post active. Okay. But it will be translated in English as the first word most all the time.
Gotcha. And that's the same with men?
Yes, men or men, de, un, those are all postpositive words.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
when you see it, it's just not the first word in the Greek sentence, but it'll probably be the first word in the English sentence.
Okay.
Okay, that's all it's doing. What time we got? All right, just a couple more. We're almost done. I'm going to read them now just for time's sake so that Samuel's not late for his class.
Oh man, I've been practicing.
All right, go ahead. Give me this.
All right. Well, practicing might not be the right way. Ophthalmos.
Yeah, ophthalmos, right? So the ophthalmos, and that obviously is in the a masculine word. There's the genitive form, or ophthalmu, and there's the article. It's a nominative masculine singular article. So ophthalmos means what? Eye or eyesight, or something like that. Palin means again. Pus or podos or podos. Ha is the foot, and there is a third declension word. Look at the stem, pod, with the delta as the stem ending. And so if it were to come up against the podos or pod, would you see in the genitive form, it has the omicron sigma for the genitive for third declension. Then the delta is retained, but in the genitive or in the nominative singular, it's not. It's gone. And anyway, it does kind of explain what happens if you look down here. Pus is declined from like El Peace, which is hope, El Dos, except in the nominative singular, the omicron of the stem lengthens to the omicron upsilon. So what happens when the sigma comes up against the delta? It changes to a sigma, and you get pos. But that omicron does lengthen, and it begins pus, and that becomes the foot in the nominative singular.
Okay.
That's what's happening there.
So it follows that a blot kind of where
It is a
vowel
block.
lengthens.
That's what it is. A lengthening of the noun or the vowel, right?
Yeah.
Prepare, rough breathing. In the genitive form, it's in behalf of. In the accusative, it means above. So it's a preposition. Okay.
Okay.
And we've gone through the vocab now. So what we'll do next, we won't have next week, guys, but we'll meet the following. I'll be in Costa Rica, so I'll be teaching from there. And what we'll have is we'll try to meet a half hour early like before, Jake, and we'll pick up from chapter whatever the next. It'd be. I think it's. Well, I got the book in front of me. It should be.
What were y'all doing last time?
Prepositions is what we should be doing.
They all would be on
chapter 8. So we'll do a review of chapter 8 of prepositions, and then when we start the class with Sam, we'll be going into chapter 13, which will be demonstrative pronouns. So we're really continuing pronouns, right?
Okay.
Personal pronouns is what we've done so far, first and second, and now third. Then we move into demonstrative and then into relative pronouns. Okay, and then we go to verbs after that. Yay!
Verbs is something else. Yeah.
Verbs are cool, man. Verbs are really verbs are the bomb. They're cool. All right, guys. Any questions? Samuel, and Lisa, for prayer.
Yeah, let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we come to you now. God, thank you for this time that you've blessed us with. Thank you for being our God and the love that you've shown us, allowing us to be able to be a part of the school as teachers, as students. God, just ask that you be with all of us, all the students, all the teachers. God, I want to thank you for Mr. Dave and his love for you and the work that he does, not only as an elder, but for the school here. Just ask that you bless him and his family. Watch over me and Jake as ministers. It's in your son, Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Y'all too.